Hello, gorgeous, lovely person. It's Jackie here. Today, I want to talk about getting it wrong. And I must admit, gosh, I have tried to record this video quite a few times. Now, whenever I have a video that I want to record and it's a concept that, for me, the way I'm putting it together, it holds a lot of different moving parts. Because I am very much wired in a ADHD neurodivergent way, I cannot hold and remember all those parts to give you 20 minutes of detailed information. So I have to write myself notes. I just have to do it that way. Otherwise, I'm not going to capture everything that I want to share with you in this video. So if you see me duck into my notes, you'll be like, that's just Jackie ducking to her notes so that she can remember what she wants to talk with us about. All right. So today's video is all about getting things wrong. All right. Now, as human beings, we are designed to get things wrong. What do I actually mean by that? Well, there have been and there will continue to be billions of times where, as a human being, we've thought that something is true. So it was, full stop. It is true. That's all there is to it. And then found out sometime later that the thing that was thought to be true was in actual fact not true at all. Some other truth has then come along and presented itself. So this has and will continue to happen, not just for me as a human being, but for entire groups of people, governing bodies, businesses, corporations, individuals. The list goes on and on. Everybody, nobody escapes this ever. For the purpose of what I want to share today, I'm actually just going to keep talking about our individual human experience. Now, we can only, as a human being, be aware and observe what we are evolved to see just in this point in time. The idea is that as we grow, we evolve. We're designed to grow with our minds open. And many, unfortunately, grow with their minds kind of closing in on itself as they age, whereby the filters of the mind begin to narrow and become rigid. And this is commonly referred to as narrow-mindedness, or another way of putting this is having blinkers on. It's where the things that the person believes stays the same. There is no growth in their understanding of themselves or the world around them. And they have next to no willingness to learn to be different, to want to believe something else. They just want to stay in their belief of what they know to be true for them. Now, quite often, this can actually stem from early childhood experiences and early childhood conditioning, where they were deeply conditioned to not mess up, to not stuff up, to not even be able to get things wrong. Because when you got them wrong, you were often punished, and sometimes very severely punished. And so getting things wrong or admitting that you got things wrong wasn't an option, especially if you didn't want to get hurt, right? If you didn't want to be really punished. So being accused of being a failure, as would have happened in a lot of people's early childhood, because you got something wrong, it often leaves a huge mark of trauma on the inside of a person's body-mind complex. And if that trauma is not looked at and addressed, it stays very, very traumatically charged. And this is when a person will be unwilling to be wrong, because there's going to be a fearful mind there that's just willing to protect its beliefs at all costs. This is the opposite to what is meant to be our natural state of growth and evolution in life. It's far more a contracted state, and it leads to lots and lots of unhappiness and often anxiety and depression. Now, it's important to remember that you're not likely going to win or change somebody's mind when you're presenting other ideas or other information or opinions to somebody like that, because their mind is often going to be in a very fearful, contracted state, and you're not going to get through that. So keep that in mind, because then it might help you make a decision on what you don't want to do, okay? We are designed to get things wrong. That's just how we're designed to experience life. That's one of the things that we're going to encounter. And I'll share a few examples when humans in the past got something wrong. It's not going to speak directly to if they were aware of it, if they're aware of it being wrong, or if they took responsibility for it and admitted it. Remember, many people will not, especially back in the times and experiences I'm talking about, because the idea is that as we grow through generations, we evolve, our consciousness expands, we become better at being authentic human beings. So the experiences or examples I'm going to share with you are from, quite a few generations ago, and remembering that if you were to make mistakes or if you were to be wrong, especially as a child back in those times when things were really tough, it quite often was not accepted, not desirable. You were punished. You could be ostracized. It goes on and on. So that meant that those children go up to be adults who were fearful of being wrong and quite often didn't take any responsibility for being wrong. And that just becomes part of our process where we transcend those limiting beliefs as generational traumas also, right? So the first one that I wanted to share is around the 1930s. What was spoken of as being right at that point in time was actually smoking. So doctors not only prescribed it, especially to pregnant women, they were asked by the different governing bodies, like the AMA and the industries such as the tobacco industry, to do advertisements. And these advertisements lasted decades, and they were radio advertisements that were every day, multiple times every day, or on your news breaks, or on the TV at all different times of the day and night. They were in print, so they were in magazines, they were in newspapers, they were in brochures. It's interesting that these governing bodies, medical bodies, industries, they also specifically targeted throat doctors to promote it. That's interesting, right? Yeah. There was really passionate argument from them against anybody who suggested or insinuated or tried to bring information forward to tell them that they were wrong. It was massive pushback, massive fight, massive ostracizing of anybody who tried to say you're wrong. They were obviously the ones that were made out to be wrong. So that was one example of history where it really was wrong. Another one, and this really struck me when I learned of this some years ago. I was in a coffee shop. I placed my coffee order and I was waiting for it to be made. I picked up one of the magazines that jumped out to me, and this story was in it. And it, as I said, it really struck me. It caught me. Some of the things I couldn't actually believe what I was reading. So I then went home to research it. Yeah. So this goes back to about 1917. At that point in time, the majority of the workforce in America and around the world were women, because many of the men had been called to engage in war. Now, many women actually worked in factories, building clocks and watches. Now, in particular, the US military, they got women to paint the hands and the numbers with this special paint. And it was a paint that glowed in the dark. It was a paint that had very deadly radium as its basis. Now, the woman did it gladly. They were feeling of purpose. It was willing, because it was insinuated that all they were going to be doing was putting this new special paint that glowed in the dark onto the watches. It wasn't even talked about as being safe or anything, because it was just shown to them as being standard practice. We have this new paint. It's really cool. Look at it. It glows in the dark. We're going to be able to put it on the watches, and our men in war are going to be able to see what time it is. How cool is that? So they willingly did it. They were also encouraged as part of their job and taught to lick the end of their brush, or put the brush in their mouth and kind of like put it in their mouth and then purse their lips together and bring the brush out through their pursed lips. And that was to maintain a thin tip on the brush so they could do fine paint work. And it actually ended up becoming quite comedic, the glowing paint and the women, because they started painting it on their lips as lipsticks that would glow in the dark, and on their nails. And there was a lot of other products, particularly beauty products, health products, where this radium was put into, and women put it on their body, and the skin, being one of the largest organs in the body, actually just absorbed it straight into the body, and toxicity, massive toxicity. But for these women that were in the factories dealing with this almost on a daily basis, where they were putting it into their mouth, their bodies became more poisonous and more toxic every single day. All of these women, they ended up dying horrifically and quite quickly. The body showing, signs of bones that crumbled and fractured with no force inflicted whatsoever, just nothing to, like chalk in water. Severe anemia. So for anybody that has ever experienced severe anemia, you'll know how painful and uncomfortable that actually can be. Necrosis of the face and the jaw. So the jaw would actually start to decay and actually fall away piece by piece, because they took it in through the mouth. There were other cases from factories all over the world where this was also being done, and also now being experienced by their women, and the reports were coming in thick and thin. The corporations that were involved, the military agencies and the government people, so think of all those people involved wanting to be right, not wanting to be wrong, but wanting to be right. It all started an immediate campaign from them to discredit the reports that were coming in worldwide, even conducting news reports from inside the factories. So the news teams would go to the factories and conduct examinations. They were conducted in front of the news crews inside the factory on, get this, fake employees, where they conducted physical examinations on fake employees to show that they were healthy and that there was absolutely no radiation poisoning at all. Also, the companies were instructing the medical professionals conducting the examinations to keep quiet about their discoveries. Don't you dare say a bloody word, in order to cover it up. The symptoms, unfortunately, got attributed to poor syphilis, which was still a widespread sexually transmitted disease at that time. So they just tried to palm it off as being poor syphilis's fault. And it wasn't at all. So if it wasn't for the women who were still alive, where they decide to come together in unity and lodge litigation proceedings, it probably would never have happened. The truth about the wrongdoing probably would never reach the surface, and we wouldn't be talking about it in today's video. Wrong was shown, but very few accepted self-responsibility and said, I was wrong. In fact, I don't think there's any report of that at all. Remember, though, we're designed to get things wrong. To know some things to be true for us right now, and then to learn sometime down the track that they're actually a different way. And that's okay. Not only that, but we do it with this sense of awe and wonder. You know, we have this ability to look at it and go, wow, look at that. I wasn't aware of that. That's so different to what I first believed, right? We do it from a place of openness, awe, and wonder. Now that's growth, and that is very, very naturally how we're meant to be. If we are not growing, learning, and integrating learned wisdom from our experiences, that's when the mind becomes fragile, fearful, and rigid with beliefs that are stuck firm with no room for change or growth at all. When you realize that we're naturally designed to learn and grow, that things are different now to what we knew previously in time, then you become more like the curious seeker, you know, the journeyer in life that is curiously seeking. You won't mind at all getting things wrong because it's just naturally part of one's own growth. For me, some of the times that I've been wrong and it's really changed my mind's understanding have been to do with more smaller personal things, such as having quite a biased understanding of the term NPD and its diagnosis. Let me just shut this down. Having a more biased understanding of that term NPD, which is narcissistic personality disorder, and its diagnosis. For me, I was just believing that it was absolute bullshit, really, and just an excuse for exceptionally poor behavior, until I had the experience of working with somebody for 10 years who was here having their life's experience as someone who is certified NPD. That really opened my mind to that. It taught me loads. And a few decades later, I wrote an entire workshop on NPD for community members of my incredible orbit. Now, I've been learning also a lot about factual history in Australia and beyond. Much of what I thought to be absolutely truth. And I would spout it back to my kids when they were growing up, not questioning it at all at the time, because my consciousness was still evolving then. And I didn't have the agreement with myself then that I do now to question everything. And so I, in recent years, have begun to learn about this history of ours from all different perspectives and teachings, only to realize that I really knew nothing and I was wrong. I thought I was right, but I got it wrong. And I was more than okay learning differently. There's one other time where I got it wrong, and I want to share that with you because it is an important one. And it's to do with one of my classes. I very, very rarely allow conversation to drift passionately off topic in class. But this one particular time I did. And in hindsight, I realized I did it for good reason and it needed to happen. I realized a lot later in time because I was wrong and I actually needed that jolt to show me, hey, you are rigidly stuck in this area, Jackie. See how quickly you jump to respond? That's because you're stuck in this way of thinking. Now, what came about was a student had a particular viewpoint about someone who's pretty well known, and I had a strong opposing viewpoint. My ego jumped up inside and wanted to defend its view, as it always does. And I said I didn't agree, and I said it quite strongly. I don't agree. And a few years later, things presented over a period of time to my inquiring mind, and it really, really challenged me to question my thoughts. I did. I came to the decision that I was likely really wrong, and it shifted within me my understanding on that person. But I realized I was wrong that time in class, and I took my learning from that experience and I grew from it. So we are designed to get things wrong, to know that it will be wrong, to allow other concepts to present themselves over time and allow them to change us or be questioned at the very least. And then we can evolve when we realize that we're wrong, right? We are healthier when we realize that we are designed to get things wrong. We're actually healthier when we do that at all ages. But yet we still punish young ones for getting this wrong. Why do we do this? We are healthier when we can be honest about it and we take self-responsibility. We are healthier when we can be kind and gentle on ourselves, when we realize, gosh, I got that wrong. We are healthier when we can be compassionate towards others, when they say with integrity, gosh, I got that wrong. We are healthier when we are flexible enough to shift into a different state of understanding or action that's come from the understanding of what we got wrong and how it is now for us. So a word about being careful of the wolf in sheep's clothing that says, I have integrity. I'm saying I got it wrong. I'm sorry, right? Be careful of that. There's no self-responsibility here with the wolf in sheep's clothing, or open-mindedness, or self-responsibility, self-awareness, or personal growth being had. And there's a lot of this, much of this in high quantities showing up right now on this planet, and continue for a while to be that way, I suspect, until we can become better at being an authentic human being, right? So your intuition and instincts greatly help you in identifying wolf in sheep's clothing. Lean in and trust is my offer of advice when people ask me how do we identify these kinds of people. Just know that we are by design going to get things wrong, and that's okay. It's also okay to realize this at any time. Realizing that we were wrong about something, that's often going to come about after times of really being squeezed a lot. So being uncomfortable and going through challenging times. We are a pretty immature species, in all honesty, and have much growing and awareness before us on our journey, which is also really great news, because we are in a high growth period of time where we might find ourselves saying quite a lot, gosh, I got that wrong. And that's okay, because it's growth, right? So hopefully you got these messages loud and clear today. If you're somebody who really, really struggles to be comfortable with being wrong, or you find it hard to be loving and kind to yourself for times in the past when you realize you were wrong, or if you realize that maybe the mind has become a bit firm in its beliefs because the mind tells you, I'm never wrong, which we know is untrue, right? I would thoroughly suggest and welcome a session with me. These one-on-one sessions with me are powerful enough that it can easily challenge and change our belief systems. It can also enlighten us to where we were wrong, as well as where we were right, and set us up with new systems within the body-mind complex that then allow us to function more in a way of open-mindedness. This open-mindedness then allows your mind to see far beyond and into what it hasn't been able to previously be able to see. And it does this all in a very gentle way. So that's it for me today. I'm off to whisper sweet nothings to my food plants out in the backyard. I'm currently edging on my cauliflower to grow nice and big because they're wee little things right at the moment. I trust that if you want to stay connected to me, then you'll click the subscribe and bell button that you'll find somewhere on the page. And to get first glimpses of anything that I do and send out, I'd highly recommend subscribing to my private newsletter, all of which can be found by going to JacquieMcIntyre.com. So I'll see you next time, and remember to tread your own path always. All right, see you later. Bye.